Hey guys, hello and welcome to this next video, which is going to actually be about Manchester United game today, which was between Manchester United and Manchester City, and obviously known as the Manchester Derby as well. And I'm just going to be discussing what I actually think of the game. And starting out from the very start, I think Manchester United, we set up wrong. I called it before the game, we will start the hand goals, I said we'd start by and either Blind or Smalling, depending on who was fit, and it happened to be Blind. I said we'd start Luke Shaw, I said we'd start Valencia. I also said we'd start Pogba and Fellaini, which I also got right. I actually got 10 out of the 11 players, sorry. The only one that I didn't actually get was Jesse Lingard. I was really surprised to see him start, and the rest of them I actually got right. So, to be honest, I was disappointed Lingard started. I thought it should have been Rashford, and I think we would have had a better outing for the style of play that he started the game with if we had started Rashford. Now, I think the way he set up from the very off in the game was totally wrong. Jose Mourinho, yes, brilliant manager, very, very good tactically normally, but we let Manchester City have the ball for too long at the start of the game, and it killed us. Physically, mentally, and you could see it in the players that their heads were gone because they didn't have the ball, and when they did have the ball they panicked because they were, you have to counter, you have to be quick at passing, you have to get it up the field, you have to run with the ball. No. Take your time, settle down on the ball, and then get it forward. I'm not saying move it really slowly like the Louis van Gaal tactic, but do what we did against Hull, do what we did against every other side in the league. Just because it's Manchester City, don't get tied up in the tactics. Play the normal football that we normally play, and that's exactly what we did not do today. It was absolutely disgraceful, straight from the start until the half time maybe. Roughly until we actually got a very, very lucky goal to bring it back to 2-1. We were 2-0 down and we were playing awful. I thought we'd be 3 before half time. I thought that, I really did. I was not sure whether we'd be 3 down. And in the end, we were very, very lucky to get a goal off a Claudio Bravo mistake, which actually he came out to catch the ball and it was absolutely terrible goalkeeping from him. There's no other way of putting it. And he actually had a very dodgy game overall. He had 2 or 3 times in the game where he did look awful. Now, of course, it's his debut, of course he's going to be nervous, but he was trying to play out balls short, and when United pressed onto the left and right full, there was actually nothing else there for Claudio Bravo to do, only kick that ball long, and we were winning every one of them. It's just a pity that it took Jose Mourinho 40 minutes of the game to actually start pressing Manchester City high. So that, I think, was absolutely terrible. The other thing I think was terrible was Jesse Lingard's performance. He was brutal, straight from the start. I think he got the ball twice, maybe 3 times in the game. Every time he put the ball out for a throw-in. Every single time, out for a throw-in. Literally, that's all he done all game long, was literally put it out for a throw-in. He didn't do anything good, nothing. In the whole time he was on the pitch, he was on there for 40 minutes, sorry, 45 minutes even, and nothing. He didn't do a thing. Rashford, when he came on in that position, he showed 2 or 3 brilliant moves the minute he came on, and then went very, very quiet, which I was quite surprised at. When he started out, he went on a run down the left hand side. He caught in very, very well, and he actually got caught right between a centre back and a full back, which was on his back, and still managed to scoop it over him towards Pogba and Ibrahimovic, and Pogba just went barely over his head. He could maybe have jumped up and got something on it, but I think because Ibrahimovic was in behind him, he thought Ibra could have flicked it into the net, but obviously Ibra just flicked it over the crossbar, and that was the first real chance of the second half for Manchester United. That was only a minute into the second half, and Rashford again took it down the left a minute or 2 later, and that was brilliant as well. So there was positive signs straight away when Rashford came on. Then I think he went very, very quiet, started to go dead again and not get on the ball as much, and when he did get on the ball he was just playing simple passes. But overall in the second half, Manchester United were way better. We were actually the better team for most of it. Now, De Bruyne did get on a very good counter attack playing the false 9 role when he moved in there, and he actually held the ball up very well, and he managed to hit the post, but I don't know how it did not go in. It literally rolled right across the face of the goal, and if it didn't go in, I don't know how he did not score it, because it deserved to go in, and I'm not going to lie there, it was a brilliant effort from De Bruyne. But obviously I was delighted to see that keep out. And then we got 5 minutes of added time right at the end, and we should have made advantage of that as well. We just kept booting the ball into the box, whereas if we had kept possession, let Manchester City out a little bit, and once they pressed out that tiny little bit, even a tiny bit, because I know they wouldn't have pressed out as if they were losing. If they were, because they're winning, they're not going to want to press out, they're going to want to bank back. But because we loaded numbers in top of them, their midfield, because they have that kind of front five, forward in, pulled back into the defence, and that actually stopped us getting that goal. But I think if we had just sat off a little bit more, those four would have came out, they would have had to come out, and when they did, we could have got past them on the left and right wings and got it into the box for Ibrahimovic's head. So overall, I think Jose Mourinho got caught up in the tactics a little bit too much. I don't think it really worked out very well for him, and I really did not enjoy the Manchester United performance, because normally we are way better than what we were today, and that is slightly disappointing for me and obviously all other Manchester United fans. But I just can't really see where Jose was coming from starting Lingard. And Mkhitaryan, I thought, actually was very poor as well, along with Wayne Rooney. I think he was probably the worst player out there today. Number 10 role he played. He was supposed to keep the ball, hold it up, play it into the left, play it onto the right, spread it out wide, and play it into Ibrahimovic. I don't think he done any of that. All that Rooney done all game long was he pressed onto them, and then fouled. Literally, he did not do anything else all game long. I think that's the only good thing that he done, was press them. And then when he did press, he fouled. He actually ended up clipping Claudio Bravo with one. Claudio Bravo kind of walked himself into trouble. But what happened was Claudio Bravo had the ball, and he normally looks for his two fullbacks, which were actually closed down by, I think it was Ibrahimovic on this side, and it was actually, I think it was Rashford on the other side. But I'm not sure on that now, but there was definitely, the two fullbacks were both closed. Claudio Bravo had it. He was waiting for the fullback out, and he didn't want to kick it long because of what he'd been taught. And then he ended up dribbling himself into trouble. Rooney ran onto it, and when he did, he clipped the keeper when they did play it out to the fullback, but the fullback was in a corner, and Ibrahimovic was closing him right down. He was that far away from him, and he was about to try and win the ball back off the fullback. And Rooney still committed the foul, which was absolutely ridiculously stupid, really. There was absolutely no need for what he done. And he did that quite a bit, where the ball was well gone. United were pressing up. Finally, after him giving out to them for about 5 minutes of not pressing up, they finally did press, and then Rooney committed a foul. It was the story of our day, really. It's what happened all game long. And we need to improve on that in the future. We need to actually work something out where we can press high but not commit those fouls, because even Rashford, Martial, they were all committing the fouls when they were on the pitch. Now Rashford, not so much, he didn't commit many fouls. There was actually one on the touchline. The man was taking it down the touchline towards him, and Rashford just came right across, and there was no prisoners been taken. He actually won that ball fair and square, but if that man moved 2 inches further forward, he was going to get his leg broke. Rashford was not pulling out of the tackle, and I like to see that in a player, even though it is feisty and can lead to kind of yellows, red cards, but it was very clean. He seemed to know what he was doing, seemed to control his body at the same time, even though he did fly into tackles. But in saying that, I think David De Gea was one that played fairly poorly. Now he made 2 decent saves. There was one actually came right across him, and it was, say he was here, his left post was here, he actually got right down to the bottom corner at the left post, and then the second shot came in, and he actually got around his post and tipped it away again with save on the second time round. But both of them were definitely gone in. They were 2 brilliant saves, but it was actually the one where Man City scored their second goal when they were 1-0 up already. What happened really was, on the second Man City goal, was that United were caught. We had 4 or 5 across the defence like this, and then we had Daily Blind back here. So we had 3 or 4 out here, and then Daily Blind right back, nearly by the keeper. And when they shot, Kevin De Bruyne shot, David De Gea stood completely still, just literally just stood there like this, with his 2 arms out in front of him, did not even move, thought it was gone into the bottom corner of the net. But it was clearly, it was trickling, it was literally only trickling towards his goal. He could have definitely ran even across and not even dived and picked that ball up before it hit the post. It was going that slow. It was one that he could probably have dealt with if he was thinking clearly and actually moving across his goal line. But then he stood completely still, and when the second shot came, he did not look ready because he already thought he was beating the far corner. And then the second one came back out off the post, and it was actually Iheanacho, I think. He just got onto the rebound because Daily Blind was dropped way too deep in behind the rest of the United defence. And that was actually the second mistake. I'm going to talk about the first mistake now before I go, because I feel like I'm ranting on about a game that we cannot change now. But the second mistake by Daily Blind was actually Manchester City's first goal. And I know I'm out of order with the goals, but Daily Blind, what happened was we were pressing high, but Mkhitaryan actually only said the ball was down right in the corner. Mkhitaryan, Rooney was telling him, run on and get to that ball before they played it out. But Mkhitaryan jogged so slowly towards that ball that I think it was Zabaleta, he could just fire the ball long. And then Bailly took a step or two outwards to try and follow a runner who was actually running onto the header. He got caught kind of napping in behind him a little bit too late to get there to actually win that header. And then the flick on was won towards De Bruyne. De Bruyne, then, it was an absolutely superb touch, I will admit. But Daily Blind just stood there. He did not move. He was not on his toes, moving around like any position should be, really. I won't say a centre-back. Like anyone on the pitch should be. He was just standing way too still. He was just stationary in the middle of the pitch. And then when De Bruyne took one touch, he was clean through and goal. Nothing De Gea could do. He was given the eyes. I think De Gea should have just stood a little bit taller maybe, but obviously when you're given the eyes as a keeper, it is quite difficult. Now, I won't run on too long more. Obviously, I don't want to be ranting on and on about a game that we can't change, but I still have to say that second half performance was okay. First half performance was absolutely a shambles from Manchester United. Thank you guys. Until next time.